Hello, and welcome to a product review. Today, we're going to be reviewing a product that I unboxed like a month and a half ago or more, and I finally got around to reading it, finishing it, and thinking about it. It's Mystara's Glantri, Kingdom of Magic for 2nd edition AD&D. Now, this product is one of those things that renews my faith in 2nd edition stuff. Like, every now and then I doubt, I'm like, well, it's not really useful and pertinent to what I'm playing currently because, you know, I don't have a DM for 2nd edition, and I find it difficult to DM 2nd edition because I'm not completely steady on the rules. So, I don't really like to run 2nd edition just because I'm not confident in it. But it's stuff like this that reminds me why I buy it, and it's for the ideas and the fluff as opposed to the rules. So, we'll get started with the main book for this, the Grimoire. Now, these symbols on the back actually represent the principalities of the Kingdom of Glantri. And the Glantri is a kingdom in the world of Mystara that is a magocracy. It is ruled there is, I believe, 25 principalities, each one ruled by a prince. And each one also convenes in the Council of Princes to govern the just overall area of Glantri. And to avoid going into the depth that this book goes into, which would make this review just obscenely long, we'll try and hit the high points of parts of this book. First of all, I'd just like to note, the art in this book is awesome, and they detail the pictures with captions, so you actually know what's going on in them. Some of them really cool, some of them just things. But this book itself is very detailed about just the world, because we get, first of all, a world map, with Glantri being somewhere. There it is. Up here, where my finger is. So, we get a idea about everything. We get a massive amount of history, and along the sides of the book, we get these in the margins, side information. Like in this one, in the history section, we get a detailed timeline of the Kingdom of Glantri and its, rise and fall and how it all happens. Then we get, a set of 9 years that's very important, and we see, bullets for, key points that dramatically affected that 9-year period. Then we get, the more recent history, and then we get up to the realm today. So, we're getting a ton of information to kind of grasp all at once. But it allows for a DM to really, really understand and get a feel for this world so that they're not kind of, left with unanswered questions. Another thing, it goes into the economy of Glantri. Now, one of the things that I really liked is, first of all, they had a picture of their currency. Now, the currency is this, standard gold coin, copper, silver, platinum. However, they went a step further, renamed them, redetailed them, and then went into a little bit of things about them. For example, the platinum piece in Glantri, 100 pieces can be used to store a first level spell. You can use it as a spell storing item. So that's really cool. It's burned out afterwards, but, you could store spells in pouches. So that's pretty cool. And, talks about a game of that rich people play where, since the gold coins always have the emblems of the prince of that area, and all the platinum pieces have spell symbols on them, what they would do is they will play a game one-on-one where they try and match tokens. It doesn't really go into the rules of it. They just kind of give a little, this is what people do. So I think it's really just cool flavor to add there. So if you do have rich players, you could, in theory, make up rules based on this little bit of information that you get. And so I was really happy with that. And then it goes into, how they treat religion, which is poorly, very poorly. And they go into the plants that they have and some of the monsters that are unique to Mystara, which is really cool. Then we also get these fun quotes at the beginning of every chapter, which kind of detail what the chapter is going to be about in a little bit of a way. Like this one's about the principalities, so it kind of goes into a thing about the principalities. Then we get, a highly, highly detailed overview of the, I believe it's 25 principalities. I mean, we get things like the house that they're a member of, the current ruler, the house personalities, the allies, and that's people, their foes, the voting power that they have in council, of both parliamentary council and prince council, and the population. So, I mean, and then, it goes into, multiple pages about the personalities themselves. So you could, in theory, like, base a group of heroes from a house and know pretty much everything you need to really build a further, more advanced house. Because they give you really strong framework. And they go into foreign relations, which is just... it's crazy how much detail. We'll skip on through all these because it details all of them in fairly great detail. Then we move on into... I skipped something. Can't get the page to flip back. Then we go into the geography of the cities, of the city, because the capital is called Glantri as well, or Glantri City. And it goes into the districts, giving tidbits of information. It's not greatly detailed in the districts, but then again, you probably don't really need a lot of detail. You get things like the Port District, the Middle Class Quarter, the West Side Quarter, and it gives, a paragraph or two of information, which you can then further elaborate on as you need. But there's plenty of information right there. Then we get into a ton of information about the Great School of Magic, which is the focal point of this world. It's the premier place to go if you're a wizard to learn. And it's, people from all over Mystara come here to learn. So, we also learn about how it was built over a source of radiance, which is kind of like a magical force and everything. So, it goes into the curriculum and how it works. It goes into the holidays. It's got its own dating system, which, it's got it broken up into 12 months, each being 28 days. And it's got holidays listed. It goes into how the authorities in the system work. And it goes into a bit of detail about the current hierarchy, like the current chief constable of Glantri City, which actually is Tianus Nicom, which is a lawful neutral human female who is a fighter, level 10. And then we get all this stuff. It goes into the groups and their relations with others, giving you about a couple, 3 or 4 paragraphs about each one of note. Some of them get smaller ones, which is something like the Hall of Magistrates, which is essentially, people who, they're professional campaigners or professional, campaign managers of, what you could relate to modern day for any kind of election. You get the Movers Guild, which is a guild based on being able to relocate wizards, their laboratories, their towers, their tomes, blah, 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 blah. The Assassin's Guild. Then we get a whole bunch of new spells. Some of them really cool, like remove the Instrument of Death, which if it's cast against someone wielding a weapon, they will drop it if they fail their saving throw, which is pretty cool. And it takes a full round to get it back, and, ready to fight. That's what it says, so it's pretty ridiculous. We get some magical items of miscellaneousness. It's not even a word. We get known artifacts. We get some that are really cool. Like one I found really awesome was the Infernal 5-handed wand, which requires 5 individuals to be holding. It's a fairly large sphere with 3-foot black iron rods coming out at 5 of them. And each one has to be held by a different individual. And the 5 in unison say the trigger word, and they open a portal to the 9 hells. No, the abyss. Sorry, and a random creature comes through the abyss, and then the 5 can command it in unison. They have to say it all in unison to do something. Now, it will, last until said event occurs, what it was ordered to do. However, if it is slain or I believe dismissed, the creature stays until it fulfills its task or is destroyed. However, should the creature be slain, the artifact automatically opens 5 gates to the abyss, releasing 5 new creatures to hunt down and kill the original casters. So that's just a really fun artifact. Then it goes into the 7 secret crafts, which are 7 secret orders of, well, semi-secret orders of magic that focus on specific things like necromancy and walkism, which is just age-old recipes that's like alchemists, I guess. Then we get new spells for some of these. Then we get character creation, which has this really cool thing called progeny, which are people who are descendants from demi-human races that are not humans. Well, what is the exact wording so I can get it right? Progeny refers to people whose heritage includes certain inhuman creatures besides elves with magical natures. Not including like half-orcs and dwarves and bullshit like that. We're talking like Medusa and lycanthropes and vampires and stuff like that. And there's a 2% chance that you can be one or be from a family. And then you roll on a chart, which, gives you special stuff. And then you get to roll again on another chart if you, get X thing. To the point where you can get just really cool stuff or really, really sucky stuff. Like a -1 penalty on saving throws versus poison. Or you could get a +1 bonus to saving throws versus poison. That's pretty cool. And then we get wizards and new weapon proficiencies, and they just kind of dulls back down into normal. So that's the core book that I just blasted through. Then we get the adventure. This is going to be a 2-part review because I'm running out of time. But then we get the adventure, the Test of Darkness. Now, I'm going to review it with the accompanying CD. Now, the adventure itself is actually pretty cool. I read through it. I listened through it. It's really, really cool. Really, really strange at some points. Like, there's a point where the players are plunged into a dungeon of magical darkness, so there's no way for them to see, and they've got to maneuver their way out and fight creatures, which in 4th edition, not 4th edition, in 2nd edition, requires a -4 to all attack rolls in the dark, because no one can see shit. So that's really cool. And, it's fairly well detailed. It's a good starting adventure, unlike a lot of other, later editions and other just, first adventures from box sets where they're not open-ended enough. Like, this one leaves you, you've got plenty of room to decide, hey, I'm going to build a campaign off this one adventure's events. And you just go from there and get I'm not going to go into too much detail about the adventure lest players are watching and it spoils it for them, because it's really, really cool. I do recommend this box set. But it's got also at the very back, it's got adventures that, like, I guess the pre-made adventures that you can go and buy and just, continue the story, which is pretty cool. But it's a really well done adventure. I don't want to say too much about it, but really, really, really cool adventure. Downside, accompanying CD. Where the CD is really cool because it's got NPC voices on it. I know now why they're not normally used, because they also have the PC reactions on them. So it kind of seems like you're railroading, like, really, really heavily, because you're now controlling the players, like, what they're saying. And I don't really know. I don't like that. In my personal opinion, what I think would be best used with this CD is to just, as a DM, listen through it, learn the parts, make notes, and, on a piece of paper and attach to your DM screen or something. That way you can run the parts what they're supposed to be, but you do not have the player reactions on them, because it's really, really railroaded with it. And I'm not a big fan of that. But it's a cool CD. It's got, it's good for listening if you want to read through it. You feel, it's kind of like listening to a D&D session going on, but you're not, so it's kind of inspiring. I don't know, I like to write with, inspiration. But that's that part, and we'll move on to the maps in the next part of the video. So, see you on the other side.